Hello and welcome everyone. I'm glad you could join me today as we explore one of the most exciting and useful tools introduced in Revit 2024, the Toposolid. In today's session, we'll walk through everything from creating basic terrain to adding roads, integrating water features, modifying contour, appearances, and even embedding building elements into your site. So by the end of this tutorial, you should feel quite confident in using Toposolids to shape a real world landscape in Revit. So let's begin with the foundational step, creating the Toposolid itself. To start shaping our site, navigate to the Meshing and Site tab. This is where all your site modeling tools live. From here, we'll choose Toposolid and choose Create from Sketch option. Now I'm going to use the rectangle tool to define the overall boundaries of the site. So you can use any sketch tool that suits your design, but the rectangles are quick and clean when you are just laying the groundwork. Once your sketch is in place, click the green check mark to finish the sketch mode and generate your Toposolid. It might not look too exciting just yet, a flat surface in a shaded view, but if you toggle the visual style at the bottom of the screen to realistic or textured, you will get much more lifelike representation of your terrain. That extra visual feedback is especially helpful as you begin modifying elevation points. So now that we have our base in place, let's start shaping it. Head over to the Model tab and select Modify Sub-Elements. This is where the magic begins. Now click anywhere on your Toposolid, a point, an edge, even a face, and assign an elevation to it. Let's try raising one point to 20 feet just to see the terrain respond. So you will notice Revit immediately recalculates the surrounding surface to reflect the change. Now switching over to a 3D view at this point is helpful. So it gives you that spatial awareness. You are no longer working in just two dimensions, so you are building land. Now adding a road to the terrain. Now that we have a base terrain, the next step is to add functional elements, and one of the most common is a road. So roads are important not just visually, but also for grading and drainage logic in real world design. Now to insert a road, select the Toposolid again and click Subdivide tool. So this allows you to draw on top of your terrain and assign a new surface regions, perfect for flat roads, walkways and plazas. Switch to a plan view so your sketching is precise and use the rectangle tool to draw out the road where you want it to appear. So once sketched, take a moment to look over the properties panel. Here you can manually adjust the elevation of the road surface to a fixed height. Now, this next step is key. Make sure to uncheck Inherit Contours. So what this does is prevent the new region, your road, from automatically adapting the elevation contours of the existing terrain. So if left on, you'd end up with wavy or irregular contour lines across your road surface, which is usually not ideal for most design intents. So if you want to change the material of the road, you can do it by going to the category and clicking the properties, so you can choose the material for the road as well. So I'm gonna choose something like asphalt. Now creating a label road surface. Once we have defined our road using the subdivide tool, you might notice that by default Revit aligns the road surface to follow the natural slope of the existing terrain. Now while that might be mathematically accurate, it's not necessarily how roads work in real life. Roads, especially in design developments, are typically flat or follow a very controlled slope for usability and safety. So let's go ahead and make the road surface nice and level. So the key here is to provide the same elevation along both the inner and outer edges of the road. So we are going to use a tool called add point to add elevation control points. So let's begin at the outer edge of the road. Click on the Toposolid, then choose add point under the modify sub elements tab and start placing multiple points along the outer boundary. So space them consistently, and the more you add, the more accurate your surface will be. Think of this as plotting the elevation anchors. Add the points throughout the stretch of the road. Now that we have added enough points on one side, we'll move to the inner edge of the road and repeat the process. Again, pick your toposolid, go into add point and place multiple points along the full stretch of the road's inner boundary. Yes, this part takes a bit of patience, but trust me, the payoff is worth it. So you are crafting a clean, precise surface here. Once all the points are in place, we'll switch to a 3D view to give ourselves a better perspective. Now comes the part where we define the elevation of these points to actually flatten the road. So use modify sub elements, then click on each point individually. You will see its current elevation displayed in the properties box. That we are going to do is match the elevation of the inner edge points to those we have already defined on the outer edge. So it's a bit repetitive task. Click a point, change the elevation and click the next point, repeat. But keep at it until all your inner points are at the correct height. It takes a bit a long time, but it depends on how many points you have. You have to change the elevation of each and every point you have added. So the process is very simple. Just click a point, dimension will appear and click the dimensions, and there you can give your designed dimensions or your desired elevation height. So repeat the task, click a point, change the elevation and click the next point and repeat. In this way you have to click each and every point and change their elevations. Once you are done, zoom out and admire your work. You will now see perfectly level road stretching across your site just as intended. Now let's take it a step further and create a better slope at the inner road edge. To do this, we'll add another line of elevation points just outside the road's edge, a bit farther out than before. Head back to your side view, use add points and drop several points along the side of the road. Once those points are placed, go back into 3D view and start adjusting their elevation one by one. Again, follow the same procedure of changing the elevation of the point. Just click each point, adjust its elevation and continue until all the new points reflect your intended grading. It's very simple. Just click the points, change the elevation and click another point and repeat. So in this way you have to change all the points elevation. Now you can see the slope is created at the near inner edge of the road. Now designing a water feature. Next, let's add some visual interest and practical site function with a water feature. Whether it's a pond, a lake, or just a landscape depression, this technique remains the same. Begin by using modified sub-elements to lower an area of the terrain. This forms the basin. Think of it as creating a bowl shape where the water will eventually sit. Add several points as per your design of the water feature. Once you have added multiple points, change the elevation of each point. Here I am gonna change the elevation to 0. So I must do it to each and every points I have placed. Again, it's very repetitive task. Click point and click dimension and change it to 0. Once you have completed changing the elevation of each and every points, go back to Toposolid and select create from sketch, and this time you will be drawing the area that represents your water. Now in the properties panel, set the material to water. Revit includes this material by default and it will render realistically when you are in high quality view mode. Now sketch a rectangle or any custom shape where the pond should be. Then to integrate it with the rest of the land, use the chord geometry tool. Or before that, you're gonna check the elevation of the both toposolid. So you can navigate to east elevation and align the base of the both toposolid. Even you can move water toposolid to align its base with the terrain base. Once both are at the same level, use chord geometry to embed both toposolid. First select the water toposolid, then click the main terrain toposolid to carve out the space. The result is naturally embedded water body within your graded site. Once you have got the elevation working across your site, contour lines come into place. They are critical for reading terrain changes, especially in plan views or documentation sets. To control their appearance, head to the Manage tab and open Object Styles and scroll down until you find Toposolid. So in the Toposolid, you have a primary contours and secondary contours. Primary contours, these typically represent major elevation intervals, so you might want them in a thicker line weight or darker color. Secondary contours, these are minor intervals and should be more subtle. Tweak the line style pattern and color as needed. This will affect how contour appear across your entire project. So it's a great way to set up a consistent visual style from the start. Now you can also change the contour intervals. For this, select your site, go to edit properties, duplicate it. Now go to contour display and press edit. Now in the contour display dialog box, change the contour intervals for primary and secondary contours. For now, I'm going to provide 3 feet for primary and 3 inches for secondary contour intervals. Now here is a quick but important distinction. What's the difference between object styles and visibility graphics, also known as VG? Well, object style act as your project wide visual defaults. So if you change something here, it changes everywhere, all views, all sheets. On the other hand, VG is view specific. So let's say you are prepping a site plan for a client and want to highlight just the water feature. You you could use VG to turn off all other Toposolid elements in the particular view without affecting the rest of your project. Now creating a void for a building pad. When it's time to place a building on your site, you likely need to cut a clean area out of the terrain. That's where voids come in. For this, go to Architecture and in the Component tab, select Model in Place and select Toposolid. Give the in place family descriptive name, something like building pad void, to stay organized. Once you provide the name, next choose void forms. So in the void forms, choose void extrusion and sketch the footprints of the building. Once finished, confirm the sketch, then use the cut geometry tool. Or before that, I recommend to provide the required height of void extrusion, which helps to make it more visible and easy for the selection. So here I'm gonna provide the height 20 feet. Now you can use the cut geometry tool to cut the void. So you'll first click the Toposolid and then the void. That tells Revit to subtract the void volume from the terrain, and if you need to refine it further, use the grip handles to adjust the void size or depth. It's a very intuitive process once you get the hang of it. Play with grip handles until and unless you are satisfied with the size of the void. Now once you are satisfied with the size of the void and the location of the void, then you can link a building model into it. So go to the Insert tab and click on Linked Revit and choose your building model and bring it into the site file. So I'm gonna find my building model and bring it all together. Once I successfully find the building model, I just want to turn off the scope box and labels from visibility graphics to make my view very clean. So for this you can go to the visibility graphics and search for the scope box and labels and uncheck it. And there you have it, a fully realized site built from scratch using Revit Toposolid tools. We created the terrain, added functional infrastructure like roads, designed a water feature, controlled our contour visuals, carved a building pad, and linked in a complete architectural model. That's a full suite of site tools right at your fingertips. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, feel free to like and subscribe for more Revit insights. See you in the next one.